Yep, I just started recording. So,
All right, cool.
Mickey, if you're
Sure.
ready.
Okay, give me a second. I'm gonna share screen. Sure, I can do that now.
Sure.
Um, I just wanted to do some cross pollination really, and just share what we're doing in comms and our overall kind of like design language and our overall direction, and definitely would love feedback. Just making sure we're not saying anything that's or showing anything that looks completely off before we start spending money and actually developing stuff. So I'm just going to share my screen and show you where we are. I'm not going to go super deep on design language. I think that I'll probably butcher a lot of it. So I'm just going to share kind of the images we plan on making, and then we can kind of go over copy, and then see if we have some consensus on if it's the right direction or not. If there's anything glaring wrong, definitely let me know. Uh, you guys with me?
I think I
Yeah,
lost
we
you
can see
for
it
a
now.
bit, but I just got you now.
This is just the deck we all put together. Myself and Ian, who is kind of leading the design stuff. He's an incredible designer. Worked with, did stuff with Game of Thrones, with Marvel, Apple, the new Microsoft rebranding. You name it. Really, really great designer who I've known for many years, and we're kind of pleased with him. And I'm gonna kind of skip through this. This deck is available for anyone to see. This is like the overall storytelling that we're kind of aligning around, so that we have some other artists that we're going to be working with, like 3D artists, and so we wanted to create something for them to kind of understand Phonon as a whole. And like I'm going to kind of skip over this. There's no point going through this together. Um, I wanted to kind of go over the deliverables quickly. So our core deliverables are sort of page layouts, typography, a style guide, a bunch of illustrations, and we have some options to do some card designs as well, and some animated graphics. But that's something we're going to look at later if we're happy with the team and if we have the budget. Um, and here's kind of what we want to look and feel, something very premium and accessible. And here's our overall roadmap. And I kind of wanted to go through our concepts and show kind of what our early looks are, and see how everybody feels about them. So here's these big, in a website you see these big hero graphics, and we're planning to do, I think it's 5, but potentially 6 big hero graphics. So we want to have a card hero illustration. We want to have illustration of a fauna being created. We want to have like a graphic representing off-chain transactions. We want to have something that illustrates the stackable nature of it that you can build on top of Phonon. That's sort of the open source public good thing. And then this peer-to-peer and scalability combined element. And we're going to have some bunch of 2D graphics as well that are going to go into this site. We wanted to sort of illustrate sort of this. We're using the word wrapped. I'm not sure if it's the right word or not, but like we've been using the word wrapped in like our design discussions on, basically wrapping any asset and making it Phonon. And our plan is to kind of, in a very tasteful, non on the nose way, like demonstrate either in an animated way or in a 3D graphic the idea of putting a digital asset into this sort of cryptographic wrapper, cryptographic handshake, and moving it places. So that can look really cheesy if you don't do it right. Our first kind of run with it, I felt was maybe a little bit too on the nose, and I think Ian too, but we're kind of toying with that idea. And we want to do representations of the puff chips and these wrapped assets going between them. That's going to be, if we invest in an animated graphic, that's going to be the graphic, basically these two puff chips moving these assets across. And our kind of stylistic vision is these sort of cascading shards of glass or layers of glass, kind of borrowing from and this is all mostly Ian's idea, so I don't want to butcher it too much, but borrowing from the sort of split experiments and like being able to show like assets moving between layers and that sort of thing. Here's like some of our early first looks, but we are going to make some changes to them. But basically, the idea is that you'll see these wrapped, these phonons moving between these shards of glass represented in a site. And if you've ever seen sort of, like an Apple product site, it's going to look and feel pretty similar, like scrolling through animated graphics and having these beautiful rendered 3D images. These are all rendered in black because that's faster, but I'm sure our color scheme will be a little bit better. These are early explorations of like wrapping assets in 3D. Again, I don't think this is going to be where we're going to end up finally, but that's kind of where the general direction we're heading in. And here's sort of like our references, the reference images we've been pulling together to kind of get our design language built. You can sort of see like where we're heading, these like cascading shades of glass and these sort of like, these different color layers. And we're trying to make sure we have a palette that's very ownable in our design. And then that extends to like the card, maybe a future card design, could look like a shard of glass. But these are just more references. And I wanted to go over quickly the copy that I wrote. Any questions or comments about this so far?
Nothing in particular, but some of these designs look really great.
Yeah, the art looks beautiful.
Mike, if you're talking, we can't hear you.
You there, Mickey?
It's going really.
We lose Mickey here.
Dang Italian internet, man.
Yeah.
The designs were too good. They got to him. He had to be stopped.
We'll just give him a minute.
I was displaying the renders overheated his computer, huh?
Maybe so.
Those look really neat. I can't wait to like produce some content using this artwork. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of those are pretty cool. The like chip one with the shapes moving through it. Pretty slick.
Sorry, I lost connection. I'm just gonna go over the copy quickly. Sorry, were there any questions? I kind of missed my my connection wasn't so good. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you now. No questions, just some commentary that the designs look pretty great.
Oh, awesome! I'm glad you like it. So I'm going to show you. I'm going to text. Maybe I'm just going to, instead of sharing screen because my connection is bad, I'm going to paste in the chat the latest copy for the site that I wrote, and I would love to go through with everybody. So if you just want to go to the chat, I've been trying to.
Mick, is it the ghost site? Because I can just pull that up. And
Yes.
change it.
Oh yeah, if you want to do that.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
So I've been trying to simplify and like rewrite to get like a clearer and simpler, more understandable copy. And I'm kind of basing a lot on the stuff you guys have been saying about the direction of that I guess GridPlus is taking, which is to really build a really accessible and robust software development kit. And I've been using that as a kind of baseline for what we're doing to try to simplify things. So I'm sure I can watch Rooster's thing. So, it's not working. So I just pasted it in the chat, so you can look at it. So I borrowed a lot from like some more open source websites, and I'm like as an overall design for the site, and thinking more along the lines of like how Drupal is, or any of these sort of open source projects look, and less like like a crypto site, less like Solana, but then also like maintaining these beautiful this beautiful imagery, which is extremely high end. So I kind of wanted to first have a really simple like you have this first hero image, which is going to represent a phonon or something like that, and you're going to sort of say, it's going to say, the first thing is to say something along the lines of Phonon's the world's most advanced open source payments protocol built for Web3. Like trying to get a really simple idea across that it's trying to work on something that works in payments, like trying to like narrow the focus a bit, and also like simplify it rather than getting immediately into like a ton of verbiage and making it heavy. And then the one thing that in the conversations we're having with a lot of people is this idea that this technology has been held captive by large institutions, payment institutions, Apple Pay, Samsung, and like this is kind of the first time, at least that I'm aware of, that technology this powerful is available for everyone to build on top of. So I wrote like a second hero, which is, what if everyone could adapt, build, and utilize the same payments technology of the world's largest payments companies? Phono versus the payments technology of the world's largest. No, this has been kind of jumbled around, but I think we rake pasted some stuff here, but something along these lines. And then I wanted to kind of get across the sort of different elements, like peer-to-peer, like Visa, Apple Pay, or MasterCard. Phonon leverages PUP chips to securely transact. Unlike Visa, Apple Pay, or MasterCard, it transacts without any middleman. Interoperable. Phonon's SDK is natively compatible with 90% of all digital assets, currencies, and blockchains, including Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. Phonon also works with all major stablecoins, including proposed central bank digital currency like the digital dollar. Scalable. Since Phonon operates entirely peer-to-peer, it is not gated by blocks, chains, or centralized payment capacity. Instead, payments are sent directly and independently from one peer to another. Phonon therefore scales linearly with each participant and has no limit to its transactions per second. Private. All transactions of Phonon are off-chain, turning any digital asset into a bearer asset. Spend and send your assets like cash without the needs for blocks, chains, or even the internet. Open source. What if Apple Pay wasn't a service you pay for, but instead was a technology stack built by the internet itself in an open source global movement? That's Phonon. Secure. Phonon uses the same secure physically encodable functions as smartphones, credit cards, and smart cards. This technology is used daily by billions of users for secure transfers of data. Feeless. There is no token to send a transaction using Phonon. Phonon transactions have no transaction fees. In fact, you could send a Bitcoin between yourself and your friends over 1 billion times without paying a single cent in transaction cost. And then building for the public good. Phonon is an open source movement and will always remain free to build, use, and explore. Our primary goal as a community is to ensure a free, secure, private payment system exists that is native to Web3, one that aligns with the principles of openness, privacy, and freedom. This is like the overall copy that we have right now for the site. Definitely open to feedback, and if there's any comments on it or want to make edits, definitely do. We're planning to get like a wireframe up middle of next week. That's going to have new copy and then kind of layout. But yeah, I wanted to kind of show, with you guys, the developers, like what we're kind of, the storytelling we're kind of doing, and what sort of like our artistically we're going to look like design wise, and what we're kind of saying to make sure that we're not saying anything completely wrong and that it jives with what you're kind of working on and building.
Yeah, Mickey and everybody. This is Rush. I'm gonna drop some new updated verbal guidelines for everybody to review. I've been kind of pushing on that, so it's in line. It's parallel with this. It covers some different areas, but I think we're starting to get this message correct, and that message is going to influence the design that Ian brings back, and vice versa. But kind of been working with Mickey to have his web copy influence the verbal guidelines, so that just everybody kind of has something to go to once we get it settled, and we can all speak the same thing as we evolve, as the whole project evolves. So keep an eye out for that. I'll probably drop it on Discourse and grab some consensus on what people like and dislike. So
Yeah. I mean, cool. This is really great. Yeah, Yeah, I think as far as all these descriptions of like the features here go, they all ring pretty true to me, except for maybe the peer-to-peer one. Like I'm not sure comparison to like Apple Pay resonates with me exactly, but I think I see the direction you're going for. I guess the tech, like I don't know, the underlying technology is just pretty different, and that's my only commentary there. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah. So I would love to know more about that and how different it is.
Yeah, I mean the transaction without any middleman is definitely true. I guess I see Apple Pay as more of like they're like a layer on top of like a credit card network or like a traditional financial rails. I guess the distinction here is, well, I guess in a way, Phonon does the same thing but with digital assets. So, and yeah, it does leverage puff chips, but I'm not sure that Apple Pay does leverage puff chips. Maybe it does in the back end. But
It does.
I think maybe it's just a little, it's not quite analogous to me. But I guess I see the main comparison is something people are familiar with and is like used for similar use. So at least the things you do with it are the same, not the implementation. So maybe that's just me speaking from a implementation perspective.
My beef is that you invoke Web3 at the top. Doesn't really have any direct Web3 stuff at the moment, and I don't know, confuses things.
Yeah, I mean, it works as infrastructure for it. Like pretty minor tweaks. Overall, directionally, I think this is good. I get what Dan's saying about Apple Pay not being properly analogous because it is like a third-party service. So if you did want to use that, maybe don't emphasize just that it's open source, but that we're removing the intermediary versus like open sourcing a comparable system. But yeah, it's a little tricky navigating the metaphor.
Yeah, I thought that Apple Pay does use the puff chips, and so if they don't, then that's different. I basically said like
They use the phone's secure enclave, not a puff chip.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I'm not actually familiar with their backend implementation very much at all. So,
okay, I'm gonna kind of take these into account and kind of like what I want to be able to say is that like the ability to leverage secure hardware, be it a puff chip or whatever, is like has been completely guarded and controlled by like huge institutions, and you don't really have access to build on it. You can only pay for its use. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I think one of the revolutionary ideas is that like you can now access this hardware that's you already own and have all the time and use all the time. And this is like kind of the first time you as like well, I guess a developer in this case could leverage it. And to me, that's kind of almost the lead in my mind. It's like freeing this technology out of these huge institutions, making it accessible, and then supporting and people building technology on top of Phonon is kind of like the thrilling like lead in my mind.
yeah, that makes sense. I guess to me the difference here is not necessarily that like the puff chip hasn't been available. Like you could have built stuff on puff chips, but it's the fact that the assets that you're transacting in are now on open networks is what makes it like actually available to be open instead of like something transacting over like a proprietary Visa network or that has had to be subject to like centralized systems. But I see what you're saying. I think maybe I would just refocus it instead of on the puff chips around the assets network themselves, or like the full, like the coming together of the puff chip and the asset network maybe would make sense.
When you say asset network, do you mean like Visa, MasterCard type thing?
Yeah, like if you're doing Visa or MasterCard or like even Apple Pay through like a indirection, like they're just transacting things on a central database that represent
Yeah.
dollars, and they have some kind of like, licensing to do so, or approval to like make that system work. But like ultimately, like the difference here is these assets are all transacted over public accessible networks, and therefore you can build a system that interoperates between those networks that you couldn't have built before blockchains existed.
Actually, you broke up with me. Can you say that one more time?
Yeah, I mean the thing is that you could have used a puff chip before to build some software, but since you couldn't like do that with like a US dollar network. The fact that blockchains are like a publicly accessible network of digital assets, you can now build that asset network in an open source public way.
Yeah. While we're kind of doing this, because I'm working on a deck, can we quickly? I don't know if we. Actually, I don't want to take too much this time, so maybe we can just save this for another time. Now that I think about it, I'm gonna update the copy, and then maybe we can get to this maybe next week.
The only thing I wanted to ask quick before we move on, I had the wrong mic on earlier. I was trying to jump in. Are they with the new designers? Are you like you've passed along everything with the prior branding guide and all that, so we can kind of have some continuity through all of that?
Yes.
I mean, okay. Cause it seemed like kind of a clean slate. It looks beautiful. I love the idea of the transparent overlays for showing how you can put all different types of assets in a Phonon. But yeah, that was my only thing. I was like, I hope we're not just completely throwing out everything, and at least expand upon that foundation or revise it. All right, cool.
Yeah, they have everything, and these are all pretty rough selects as well. But yeah, we're definitely keeping all the content, and I think the logo's staying the same, and there should be a lot of continuity there.
Yeah, we may see a bit of saturation, the color change, but like as far as the palette, the typography, they're going to be the same or just improved upon. We're not reinventing any sort of branding guidelines here.
Cool beans.
Yeah, cool. I mean that all those graphics look really great, and I take no issue with pretty much everything you've written here in the copy, except for my limited comments on the peer-to-peer stuff. I think it's all otherwise spot on.
That's awesome. I'm glad you're there.
From a content standpoint, that whole script could be made into one long video, but then each one of the bullets could be trickled out as individual tweets with some kind of GIF image or something to do with your new assets. And
You got it.
It literally would be like a 12-second tweet, which those types of tweets typically get pretty good engagement. So we'd have we would need like a bumper for an opening and a close, and then I could just voice narrate everything in between with maybe a graphic visualization of some kind, or even just a headshot, what have you. So good stuff. A lot of content there, easy to put together in media.
Awesome. I guess at this point, Dan, if you want to do a demo of the testnet.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for that, Mickey. And yeah, I'll show what we've got for testnet updates. It's not going to look too different from what we showed last week, but we've been working on improving and refining things a bit. So I'll show you the latest changes. Let me get my screen shared. All right, can you guys see this okay?
Yep.
All right, cool. So, I just went on app, unlocking my card, got a testnet card plugged in. I don't quite remember what state we were in last week, but I think we've made some refinements to the list here. We've got the individual phonon shown. We've got some indicators for the network that they belong to now. So these were assets that were already on my card. So got a native phonon, a couple bits of Rinkeby ETH. Connect my MetaMask here. I get this little connect toggle to connect to the Jumpbox server to make transfers with other cards. So you can see that connected there. And yeah, maybe Nate, you want to fire up a testnet card on your side if you've got that handy, and I can just send you something. We can demonstrate that. I think that's working now.
I don't have one handy. I'm gonna have to stall for about 45 seconds.
That'll do.
So, you know.
Yeah, in the meantime, I don't remember if we had create working last week, so I can probably show you guys that. So this will make a request to MetaMask to deposit this amount of Rinkeby ETH. So smooth that process quite a bit. Oh yeah, it's a little bug to fix. This one shows up as native, even though it's actually Rinkeby ETH. If I restart this, it'll show it correctly on the next go round. Yeah, there we go. Showing the proper icon now. And yeah, I don't know exactly what else to show. I think we've got redeem working. Oh yeah, so selection of a phonon now, doing it one at a time for the moment. Should be able to redeem this guy. I give it an address. Let's give it my current test address. I think the gas price was too high for this one to actually be redeemed. I've got the errors up in my terminal, so couldn't afford to redeem this one at the moment, as it's pretty tiny value. But give Nate a second to get it set up, and hopefully I can send one his way.
Please, Dan, a second. I was born ready, and by that I mean.
So when you redeem, is it taking the value within that token to pay the gas fees?
Yeah, at the moment it's it's checking the value within that to pay the gas fees.
Okay.
In future, you could send the gas necessary to redeem over if you would, but in all likelihood you wouldn't be redeeming something that's too small to afford the redemption.
In particular, that's actually a pretty useful approach. We've often discussed seeding new wallets anonymously. Taking the gas fee from the Phonon supports that, which I think is pretty big.
Is that an option? So if they want to pull the gas fee from their wallet versus the Phonon?
Yeah, it certainly could be. At this point, just the pulling it from the existing Phonon is implemented, but yeah, you could certainly arrange it so that you would send enough to pay the gas fee, or send a specific amount to pay the fee and to redeem before you redeem the Phonon. All right, cool. So Nate just send me card ID. Take it you're connected to the Jumpbox, Nate.
Oh no, I thought I was.
So you're sending it here to a Phonon
No, I know what it is. I'm on the wrong version of. Haha, we need to update the submodule to get the right branch.
Yeah, master would be the one to use now. No. And client.
Haha.
So you're
That would explain it.
you're sending this to another Phonon address, right? So this 043A, is that like the standard what a Phonon address is going to look like?
That's what they look like for now. This is basically just the first
16.
what is it, 16? Yeah, first 16 bytes of the public key. I think in the fullness of time, we'll probably need a somewhat more complex addressing scheme because there could eventually be collisions with this, and we'll also probably want to have a way to have friendlier names. But yeah, that's basically just the address of another card right now. So as long as it's connected to the Jumpbox server, you should be able to find each other and send a phone on. Yeah, ultimately, we'll want to create some kind of more universal addressing scheme that could work over different types of communication and like allow you to, throw your card ID out there so someone to click on and or get over a QR code and not necessarily have to always type this string.
There we go. I'm connected.
All right, cool. Sending. I think it. Oh, we paired, but it doesn't seem like it's sent. So I guess let's run some more time.
Strange. Live demo-itis.
Yeah, there you go. Ran into a bug. It almost got there, but it seems like there's some problem sending today for some reason. But yeah, that's what we got at the moment. I know there was a few changes from last week, but I can't quite recall what it was. But yeah, there you go. Normally this would disappear and show up on Nate's side.
It worked 3 days ago.
I think your connecting in the top left dropped as well.
Oh, my connection?
Yeah.
Up in the upper left-hand corner.
So is that suggesting that it has to be
Oh,
so it has to be synchronous? Like if that status drops and you attempt to send, you're gonna time out.
Oh, I see. Doesn't necessarily have. Well, it has to be sort of synchronous there. It has to be at least in a connection established from both sides, and then yeah, that exchange basically creates a pairing between the two cards, so they're online, and then you would send across that channel there. Yeah, it does look like it disconnected. I think mainly because the trying to send it again when the initial one had failed registered an error, and so it just automatically disconnected me. But that's really more of an implementation detail. It's something that ultimately could be asynchronous. I know Senor and Hinchy have been working on a design for doing this completely offline, where the second card doesn't need to be there at all, or it could like have a sort of service that sits as an inbox for phonons and then retrieves them to the card later. But yeah, at the moment, this implementation is synchronous.
So from my mind, I mean, I'm not that technical of a person. So from a testnet standpoint, how are they going to send phonons peer to peer? How are we going to connect them?
At present moment, the way to do that is just going to be to we have this service called the Jumpbox, which essentially facilitates connecting two Phonon clients to another via network. Really, the way to do it peer-to-peer is to just have one of the people hosting that service on their own infrastructure. Or just we can wrap that all into a single command that just runs the service on someone's computer. Other person connects, they talk back and forth, send it
Okay.
Yeah, so basically this connect or that connect button in the top left, I was clicking connects you to that central server. But future implementations will basically do away with that central server and just use some kind of jumping off point to connect two clients directly and have them communicate.
Cool. I remember last week you mentioned that you think the testnet was maybe 2 to 3 weeks away. I don't know if you have any updates on that timing.
Yeah, I'm hoping by the end of next week we've got all these bugs wrapped up and we should be good to go. And I guess the last thing is just getting our testnet cards manufactured. I think I'm hopeful we can get all that wrapped up next week.
We are sitting on 11,000 Phonon branded cards right now too, so we can nudge Alex on those. I think he's got them at the office, but I haven't seen the proofs yet. So I mean, I've seen the proofs. I haven't seen the final product.
Yeah, we'll need to yeah, I guess we'll sort that out.
I did have one other question from as you're developing this, like what's the most exciting piece you see from your standpoint as developers about this? I think that'll help us drive more the narrative, especially from a communication standpoint. Like what really wows you?
That's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of fascinating aspects of this system. I think the fact that you can perform a secure private key exchange via hardware guarantees is pretty unique. I don't think any system has achieved that before, especially not with the monetary assets represented as private keys. So I just think it opens up like a large design space of sort of more traditional system type stuff, but that allows you to use that stuff with blockchain assets.
I'm just really excited when I type words and letters into the computer and then it does like a different thing than it did before. And sometimes it's not even mad at me. That's really fun for me.
Well, the satisfaction of debugging is good, but on a broader level, I mean, what Dan is saying, I don't know, it's just a completely different approach. I feel like this is a valuable tool set. The things that we're talking about, you know, being able to just send a transaction to seed a mainnet address for multiple blockchains easily with, you know, at least an EVM implementation. It seems like a simple thing, or sometimes we've been so caught up in the possibilities that seems like, you know, just a first step on a longer trajectory. But that's pretty big in and of itself. There's no other way to do this. I know I lean on sort of my own focus with privacy and the utility of Phonon in that context, where that's only one component of it. But for me, just seeing that, you know, Coinbase, for example, is selling locational data and multi-hop address transaction data, you know, algorithmically basically determining which other externally owned accounts are yours when you're moving things around after you withdraw. To me, like, there is no widespread solution for even rudimentary privacy. So I think this is a really big deal. And then that's great in the abstract, but what I'm also really excited about is making this easy. So for the GridPlus side, getting that functionality built into the lattice, I really feel like that's huge because it opens up a whole nother tool set. Really, we don't have on-chain privacy right now in any way, unless you're using, you know, a privacy-specific rollup or a privacy-specific chain, which is not something that's ever gained traction. So, yeah, it opens up a lot of doors, and I always say that, by focusing on developer documentation and making this as accessible as possible for other devs to integrate into what they're building and using it as they see fit, that's when you're going to see the really exciting stuff. But I'm just emphasizing that, like, the day one first steps, I'm already pretty amped up about.
Hell yes.
Woo! It's true though. I mean, like, we all just kind of like pretend we have some degree of on-chain privacy, and that's not the case at all. How many people really use Tornado Cash? The stats are incredibly low. So then people use exchanges to obfuscate their transaction paths, and now we're seeing that that's getting sold to private parties and governments. So are we going to build something that's truly peer-to-peer and is a toolkit for everybody to transact, with the same freedom we have with cash? Or are we basically building all this stuff and getting VC money to build better shackles for ourselves? So I know that's a little hyperbolic sounding, but I really do believe this technology is important.
Hey, I got a question. I saw a link, and I don't remember where it was, whether it was the GridPlus Slack or Tuesdays. Maybe it was over on Palisades, but there was some announcement, I believe, regarding an Ethereum-based phone. Is that, I don't know if that's what it is or if that's even correct, but the larger question is, sorry, go ahead.
It's an operating system. There's an Ethereum operating system for phones.
Okay, so my question is, I wonder how easy it would be to partner up with that as an implementation of Phonon within the same device somehow.
I don't know, but
just being forward thinking and all that.
I mean, that seems like a pretty natural fit. I've only seen the headlines. That's EthOS, Rake?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I've been on their Discord for like, I don't know, about a year or something. Since they began.
Yeah. That seems like low-hanging fruit to go after for a market fit, is to jump on their operating system if that is somehow easy for our developers to onboard and make the Phonon technology, bake it in as like a, I don't know what the word is, applet or something. And then I just envision, the Phonon digital cash thing being, tap to pay, friendly and all that stuff. It seems like the second best thing to the cards. I'm sure this has been discussed. I'm just throwing it out there.
I think it's Solana. Or at least they're putting out a mobile stack.
They did, but there's a few different efforts on that front. Am I muted? No, I'm not muted. Okay, so the first major crypto phone, they tried pushing this thing called the Finny, and then my phone now is a little outdated. I have a Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus. That one has a secure enclave built in. It's got the old school SIMs, so we couldn't use an eSIM for entropy, as we foresee being able to do further down the line with Phonon. But yeah, man, this had like a dApp browser and everything built in. I'm not really sure what Solana is doing exactly. I read a couple articles about it, but like, sounds like they kind of are building in like a native app suite into an Android implementation, which I don't fully get, but I'm withholding judgment until I understand the project better. But then there's also EthOS. There's another effort underway too. I think Polygon recently announced partnering with, was that HTC, to do some native crypto native apps on there. So there's a lot of efforts on that front, and there's, JT, I think that was a great suggestion. There's definitely some likely overlap. That the stuff in terms of eSIMs is further down the line, but it really seems like a very natural fit there and exposure to a broader audience. I mean, basically, once we do have the SDK and all of this stuff accessible, yeah, these are all the things we're going to want to push on. DAO can almost take on like a decentralized business development role and like trying to expand the ecosystem, incentivizing partners. It starts opening up quite a few options.
these guys had the ability to implement traditional payment channels, but then there's also the Ethereum payment channels, and then you've got the privacy payment channel, which is the Phonon, software. Just seems pretty robust and enticing.
So kind of on the same mindset when this is so far down the road, but I just kind of want to understand if that's where we need to go. Do we foresee ourselves having to do like a fully like PCI compliance audit and things like that?
In terms of like the security standards for like EALC and FIPS and all that, I mean, you can go based off of whatever standard you're using, like an eSIM, to kind of claim that certification. How would you see that being used with like PCI in particular? So like PCI is that's the retail standard, though, right?
Yeah, payment card industry. So anytime you're doing a transaction with funds using cards, at the moment you have to be PCI compliant if you're actually holding user data. I guess that's just kind of the question there is like if the DAO holds a change maker, or if the DAO is facilitating on any kind of transactions, do we then need, and even so without the DAO involved, if we create native apps on phones, do we need that app to go under a security review before pushing it out?
I'm not sure if you'd be able. I mean, so the only context I know about PCI standards is in particular payment terminals, because that's something that we have explored with the Lattice, and that was actually partially the impetus initially behind the anti-tamper mesh, because that makes us PCI compliant for a card reader terminal. That's a basic requirement for any credit card one. I don't know how that looks though when you're talking about something that's software based over the phone. So it's something that could be explored further down the line. But yeah, it would warrant more research. It's a good thought though. I guess what I'm saying is, if you apply Phonon the tech stack across different hardware implementations, does it change that, and can software itself get certified in that way? It's not something I know.
Yeah, so software itself does get certified, and then if it's on your, if we run any servers, that your servers would then also have to be audited.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know exactly how those would apply to Phonon. I mean, for one reason, that we don't generally need to hold user data. Transactions are essentially just private keys between cards. But yeah, I guess depending on different platforms, maybe it would apply. I'm not really sure about that.
I mean, yeah, even PCI might not be the right fit. I just know it's kind of like one of the toughest ones to do. But I didn't know if like before we say like we're out of beta or something, are we going to go through our own like some kind of audit to review our?
Yeah, I do think that once we release like a beta version of the card software at the very least, and likely the client as well, it would make sense to go through a security audit to make sure that the security features of the card applet are bulletproof.
Gotcha. Sorry, that's just where my head's at for the past couple weeks. So now I'm bringing it into this.
Yeah, we got a little ways to go before the beta, but yeah, something to deal with at that point for sure.
My mind immediately goes to Andrew Byerly's discussions with Rohan when you start talking about like broader applications like that and PCI certification. All things to consider, and I guess it's good to consider them during the design phase. I know on our end, a lot of Dan's time right now is being taken up just trying to grow his team and staff up with the right people. So as we get more resources together, they are incoming. It'll be interesting to see how scope evolves.
So Justin, you were talking about using the lattice as like a part of this process. So is that how you see like the next step? Like after we do the testnet, which seems like it'll be going through this box, and then the next step is maybe integration with the lattice, but with beta or before beta, or what are your thoughts around that?
So I'm not sure on the timing, and I kind of think that it's ideal for Dan has like a deep understanding of both the Lattice tech stack and obviously Phonon. So I would defer on that to when the timing is correct. We're bringing in more firmware engineering right now, and I don't know. I don't know about the timing, but I know that the end goal is to have kind of like a marquee reference implementation on the Lattice. For me and GridPlus as a whole, that's just a super cool feature to have built in. It adds stickiness to the device. It differentiates us initially. But also, the other part of that is, with this being a reference implementation and being open source, we want to demonstrate that benefit so that as many other companies or hobbyists or whomever else want to implement the technology as well. So if we can show off how cool it is, it's great for us as an organization. It's great for Phonon, and hopefully it's great for enticing a wider pool of contributors. But yeah, that's absolutely where I see it going. We need to have, like, I see the first like accessible Phonon client versus like a CLI or card-based only implementation that I think will get tech enthusiasts, but I think for something where people who are not necessarily following the technology and are just like, hey, what does this do? I have a Lattice. I want to experiment with this. We're going to get some percentage of people drawn to Phonon just via that as well. And I see that being the most accessible initial implementation. Does that kind of cover what you're asking? I'm not sure if I was bringing that in the wrong direction or if you're more curious about like timing and roadmap or.
No, that's the way I was thinking as well. Like that, this whole conversation to me, like it should probably be documented at some level between like maybe the DAO and you guys or something like this is step one, this is step two. At least this is the direction we're heading. Maybe not something we communicate widely, but at least that way we're all on the same page. That's just my thought.
Yeah, I think it should definitely be incorporated into a roadmap. On one hand, I'm a little reticent about doing some things with the DAO because I want to maintain those divisions. Like sort of one thing that did stand out, and it was totally fine. But like, so we're hiring and we're trying to, we had that job post through Cryptocurrency Jobs. That is a GridPlus specific role, but there was like the Phonon DAO tweet saying like, we're hiring. I do want to eliminate that confusion so that like, that it's clear that we're external contributors to this. However, emphasizing those synergies will be beneficial to both parties. So yeah, I guess it's a tightrope in that regard, but yeah, our contributions as an external contributor should definitely be noted on the roadmap. And I don't know where we are in terms of formalizing that. I mean, the main effort right now is with the white paper, right? Is that an incorporated element of that? I'm a little behind on where everybody is with that currently.
So I've been trying to work on it with somebody else, and no, there's currently not a reference to GridPlus. Okay,
but like in terms of, I think it would be fine to incorporate if you want to sync with me on like how we phrase it. On our end, Dan's the person who's been looking at this effort the most, so I probably need to get up to speed more, but I'm happy to help on that and chime in on what GridPlus will commit to bringing to the table as well.
Okay.
I think pre-testnet would be great, or maybe, pre-testnet would be great to have an overall roadmap, and then who's doing what, I mean, for Phonon DAO, and then and that's sort of separate from contribution that GridPlus is going to make. And that way it sort of like makes sense. Like here's the overall direction, and here are the things GridPlus are doing. Here's the things that DAO are doing. Here are the things that other contributors are doing. That way it's like they're clear, the delineation is clear, and there's also like a communicated plan and where the testnet fits in.
Can we consider maybe like officially contracting GridPlus to do some of this stuff with like a symbolic amount of Phonon so that we have an official relationship and it's not one of like questionable nature?
It's not. I don't think that needs to be done right now. I mean, I think it would make sense at some points if there was bounties outside the scope of our commitment, and I guess we need to better define that. then like, yeah, that could make sense. But I don't think we need like a symbolic gesture in that regard, because we're already, I mean, that was kind of a core aspect of this, being able to spin out everything to the DAO like this. I had to demonstrate that, you know, there is a benefit to this to all parties. So I mean, maybe too much of that lives in my head and needs to be more explicitly stated in our comms, but I guess that's something to be considered on a case by case basis with writing. But it's a good thought. I mean, those things are possible. I guess what I really want to say is that we want to emphasize that, you know, these are two independent bodies. However, yes, our goals are in sync, and as long as we maintain that clarity, I'm okay. And I know that us saying that we're committed to this on a long-term, multi-year horizon, it does help with the DAO's pitch as well. So, yeah, I guess it's a broader topic, and it'll depend more on like the specific instances. So, you know, the copy that goes on the site, what goes into the white paper, whether we intersect GridPlus goals with the roadmap for the DAO itself or protocol level development. So, to be continued, but ping me on that. I'm going in a lot of directions lately, so obviously, just feel free to hunt me down in DMs if there is something needed on that. I'll do what I can.
In terms of development roadmap, I do have some stuff internally planned for, you know, like the road through testnet to a beta, at least what I think needs to get most urgently built. So I can try to clean up that document and share it with the DAO, so that we have a better idea of, you know, what we're driving towards at the moment, and you know, how the DAO efforts can fit in.
Yeah, that'd be excellent. Would love to see that.
Yeah, I'll try to get that cleaned up and shared early next week. I haven't really been able to poke my head above getting things ready for the testnet and hiring people for the team for the last little while.
It can't be easy to find like Java card developers. That's got to be a challenge.
Yeah, it's not particularly easy. It's not particularly easy to find good client developers either, but working on that first, and then we'll try to pick up some Java card people as well.
Amazing.
But yeah, hopefully some motion on that in the next week or two.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. Any other comments, just feel free to shoot them to me. You know, on the copy or the website or design and stuff. Just DM me if you have any thoughts or questions.
Cool. Well, thanks,
Sounds
everybody.
good. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.